Hello there, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of Liam's Fight Night Picks here on the JFT YouTube channel. I'm delighted to say this week I'm joined by a new guest to the channel. It's Mr. Chilltown Boxing. How are you doing, mate?
Good. Liam, thanks for having me on. Appreciate it. Appreciate your boxing knowledge. I actually reached out to you. I love the chemistry you have with your guys and your channel, and I respect everyone that's passionate about boxing like you are.
Yes, mate, that's what I was about to say. You reached out to me back end of last year, wasn't it? Just saying if you ever wanted to come on, and then we had you on to preview some of the Riyadh season fights with Sam and Jay, didn't we, last month? So been
Yeah.
a long time coming, mate. And what better weekend? Most of the action is in America this weekend. So what better weekend to get you on than this? But we are going to start in the UK. It's a next gen show Matchroom are doing on Friday night. Obviously, British Olympian Pat Brown's headlining for his debut. We don't have much interest in that, but the one fight that has caught our attention is Cameron Vong and Jordan Flynn. Look, it's a long time coming. It's been off and on more than out-of-date cheese you might find in the supermarket, but we're finally looking like we're going to get the fight. Cameron Vong, mate, he's got some questions to answer, hasn't he? For me and a lot of people, he was very lucky to get the nod last time out against Gavin Gwynn, wasn't he?
Yeah, so this is the thing with Cameron Vaughn. I actually imagine this. I picked Gavin Gwynn, who got demolished by Mark Chamberlain.
Yeah.
I picked Gavin Gwynn. I said Gavin Gwynn's going to beat Cameron Vaughn. Cameron Vaughn, extremely talented, very skilled. The Jeff Ori fight had red flags all over it for me. He does not like somebody that's physical and that can press. It's almost like he has a perfect amateur style. He would be great for 2-minute rounds that are only 3 rounds, but he's very uncomfortable with his back on the ropes, and he tends to put himself there. So I figured that's Gavin Gwynn's style, someone that's going to press him. If Jordan Flynn has a half a brain, if his team have a quarter of a brain, they'll watch that tape, and the blueprint's there. I scored the fight 7-3 for Gavin Gwynn. 6-4, I could see 5-5's a stretch, but I thought they did him very dirty in that fight for Gavin. And look, it's a different style. Jordan Flynn is not Gavin Gwynn, but the blueprint's there. And this is really on the flip side for me. I think Cameron is more skilled than Jordan. I think he has every advantage over Jordan Flynn, if we can agree on that. He does everything better, his footwork, his jab. Like, he's just a very good, but your game plan matters. So,
yeah, mate, I agree with everything you've just said. I mean, I did wonder if Gavin Gwynn was a gut check coming too soon for Vong, and that's how it turned out. I scored it 7-3 in Gwynn's favour on the night, and unfortunately, we know how the scorecards went, but it's undoubtable what talent he has. It's just whether he's willing to make the transfers to doing that as a professional rather than his more amateur-friendly style he has at the moment, shall we say. But we'll touch on Jordan Flynn. Look, it's his mouth that's called for this fight. It's his mouth that has been most disappointed that he's been injured 2 or 3 times and called it off. Mm-hmm. Look, it's his opportunity. He's absolutely craved this opportunity, as I've said here. His record suggests that he's maybe not past English level with his draw and a loss to Kane Baker, who's a fantastic journeyman we have on these shores.
He won. He beat. It was a draw and a win, right?
No, he lost to
Kane Baker.
He lost.
I thought he drew the first fight and then he came back and he beat Kane Baker in this.
I apologize. Sorry. I apologize. It was a draw and a win. Sorry. He is undefeated. The draw's the only blemish on his record. That's right. But it's a big step up for him, isn't it? He's sort of called out for this opportunity, and now he's getting a chance at Matchroom's Golden Goose, isn't he?
Yeah. Like I said, Cameron's got every advantage, and I'm trying to think of something that the only advantage I can see that Jordan Flynn would have is that he's a little more aggressive and he likes to press. So he likes to get off first and get off last, which I like. And sometimes if a match is even, that's what it's going to be. But look, Cameron's team needs to have an honest conversation with him. If your back should never be on the ropes. You should turn and win this fight from the center of the ring. Because if your back is on the ropes, you're probably losing the fight. That's an honest conversation he has to have. So, this, I think, fight is actually going to be closer than the odds suggest. Cameron's a very big favorite, and coming off what should have been a loss, I don't know why. I think Jordan Flynn is live in this, and I think he's going to have some motivation. And, he should be motivated, especially seeing how Cameron came off his last fight. There's question marks here. I think it's a good fight.
Yeah, it's a good fight. It's one we should have got in 2023, should have got again in 2024. as I say, until I see them both in the ring on Friday night our time,
Yeah.
I'm still skeptical we're going to see it. But I hope we do. So let's get a prediction locked in for this first fight, mate. How do you see this going down in Altrincham on Friday night?
Oh man, there's no reason why Cameron should drop more than 2 or 3 rounds. Honest, like his talent level, but he just won't probably put it together. So I can see a close. I can see a close fight. I think Cameron's gonna probably get a decision here. I can see Cameron decision, but it would not shock me if he loses. I will say that because it is his fight to lose. Let me say, it is Cameron's fight to lose. I'm gonna edge Cameron by points.
Cameron on points. I mean,
Yeah.
I completely agree with what you said. It's tailor-made for Cameron Vong to make his statement. However, Jordan Flynn is not the opponent you want when you just had a gut check like Vong had in his last fight. If he starts on the front foot, if he's able to get in Cameron's face, keep him out of his rhythm, it could be another very long night for Cameron Vong, and we're going to find out how much he really wants it. So as much as I'm a big fan of Cameron Vong, I think he'll come back and do well. I'm going to edge it to Jordan Flynn on points. Probably 6-4, 7-3 I'm looking at. I just feel like it's the wrong fight for Cameron to be coming into off the back of his last fight. But again, it's a cracking fight, isn't it, mate?
Yeah, no, I love that. And if Jordan, like I said, with his team, he needs to, like you said, jump on him early. I don't think you want Cameron to get in his cute boxing rhythm early. Yeah, you want to put that jab in his face and try to press him. You're going to have to eat some shots the first 2, 3, 4 rounds, but, I think he doesn't want that momentum going. So I like that pick. I respect that, definitely.
Yeah, definitely right. So we're going to move on to Saturday, well, early hours of Sunday morning for us in the UK, Saturday night for you. We're going to go to Mexico and the Golden Boy card. It's the rematch we didn't really want, if we're being honest, between Zepeda and Tevin Farmer, but Tevin Farmer definitely earned a rematch, didn't he, off the back of his performance in November? A question for you, mate. Zepeda, did we see his ceiling on that night? He's just not quite as good as everyone believes, or do you think he overlooked Tevin Farmer?
No, stylistic issue for Zepeda. Like we know what William Zepeda is, but that's a type of style that 95% of the time is going to be successful. There's 4 champions, and I think he would do well against certain ones, and then there's certain ones I think stylistically he would struggle with. Tevin Farmer, with the shoulder roll that he has, the Philly shell, very sharp counter punching. It's just a stylistic nightmare, and we know now why Williams Zepeda has been mandatory for like 2 years and duck Shakur Stevenson. Like Shakur does everything better than Tevin Farmer. So if that's a hint, we should realize that. But yeah, no, I just think it was a style issue. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, look, he was a flash knockdown that Zepeda suffered in that fight. We're now not saying he's chinny or anything like that, but it was definitely the biggest off night we've seen from Zepeda in his career so far. And, a comment I made the other day was we don't want him to become the next Jaime Munguia for Golden Boy. Sort of build him up. He falls off a little bit, and then all of a sudden he's cast away. And now look at Munguia. He's got to rematch Bruno Sucre, hasn't he, to sort of keep his career on track. So we don't want to see that. But let's talk about Tevin Farmer. Look, the man, he's retired 2 or 3 times, come back, and he's still going. An extensive career. I mean, I said last night, he's not been dropped since Jose Pedraza done it in 2012, which shows A, the longevity of his career, and B, how good his chin is. Look, his performance in November was perhaps the best he's had in 6 or 7 years since he was a world champion. Do we reckon he's got another 12 rounds like he had in November in him, or was that kind of his last big swan song?
Well, that's something that you just said is, I believe, very important with this fight, is that the first fight was 10 rounds. This is 12 rounds now. So that is going to absolutely favor Zepeda, who probably has one of the best gas tanks of all lightweights at 135. And if we know anything about Tevin Farmer, he tends to gas. In his last fight previously with Raymond Moratalla, which was close, he did very well. He gassed in the later part of that fight, which kind of cost him that fight. You might have froze. Well, I'll keep talking. So when it comes to Tevin Farmer, you got to understand that he just got up to 135. He's not a real lightweight. And Farmer's gas tank fails. So strategically, it's in Mexico, and this is now 12 rounds. So you would think this is all going to favor Cepeda once again. But I think it's important to talk about the first fight. I think it was overreaction to Tevin Farmer overperforming. The first fight, I didn't think it was as close as everybody was yelling about personally. But I mean, Cepeda was supposed to be somebody that was going to steamroll Tevin Farmer. He was a 20-1 favorite. So when it was very competitive, I think it was just an overreaction to this. But I mean, it's a good rematch in a sense. I don't know why Zapata is taking it, but for Tevin Farmer, he earned it.
Yeah, look, I mean, it tells you everything that in November it was over 10 rounds and not Farmers, Zepeda's interim world title wasn't on the line. Now all of a sudden for the rematch, he's happy to defend it again. I think that kind of tells you everything you need to know. We'll get into a prediction. I'll lead on this one. For me, Zepeda needs to win, but he needs to win emphatically. There's no point for me taking this rematch, going through it, if it's another close fight on the scorecards, if there's any more question marks. He either needs to stop Tevin Farmer, which hasn't been done in a long, long time, or do something like a 12-0, 10-2 sort of shutout fight. That's where I'm at with it. And although Tevin Farmer is getting older, and we know his durability with his chin, I think Zepeda will win on points. I'm hoping for a wide points victory, but I wouldn't be surprised if it's close again. How do you see it, mate?
Yeah, I think everything that you said was spot on, where they're taking this because they want to make a statement. They don't want a split decision. And I think they could probably stop him, especially late. So he's going to have to swarm him, tighten up his defense, Cepeda. And I think Cepeda's going to win. I got Cepeda winning. I don't know if it's going to be clear points or if it's going to be a late stoppage, but one of those two.
Yeah, so we're in agreement. We definitely both think Zepeda's going to win. It's just how he wins, isn't it? The style of victory is almost as important as winning, isn't it, for him? He needs to look impressive. He can't afford another lackluster display.
Especially when you're sitting mandatory, I think, in every single sanctioning body, right? He's like mandatory for every single belt. But we're getting a Tevin Farmer fight, so yeah.
Yeah, how Golden Boy have managed to spin that to allow him to be an interim champion. And man, anyway, it's the joys of boxing and how they do things. But we're going to move on to Vegas for the rest of this show, mate. And we're going to start with what the co-main event is. And Brian Norman Jr. Yes, he's finally going to have a fight. He's finally going to let his fist do the talking after his dad, unfortunately, managed to outprice his son from the boots unification. Look, Norman Jr. is 24. He's 26-0. And he's the WBO champion at 147. And I say this meaning no disrespect. Whereas with Boots Ennis, I feel like he'd have a belt regardless of who was in 147 at the moment. I'm talking Ortiz Jr., Bud Crawford, etc. Brian Norman is at the other end of the spectrum, where he is a benefactor of the fact those bigger names have moved on. Would you agree with that?
Yes, the bigger names have moved on to 154, 147, back when Kell Brook was fighting, Sean Porter. I mean, that was the golden era of 147. It's a skeleton of what it once was, because now we have Brian Norman Jr. as a champion. So I agree.
Yeah, look, I mean, 147 was the sexy division for years. You've just said, think
Danny Garcia, Manny Pacquiao, right?
Danny Garcia stopping Amir Khan in Vegas. Keith Thurman, Sean Porter, all of those fighters.
Miguel Cotto. Yeah, I mean, it was a phenomenal. Yeah,
it's a stacked division, and now it's kind of become the dormant division of boxing, which is no disrespect to Norman Jr. or even Boots, but because the big names have moved on. I mean, look, Norman Jr. is probably more known now because of the fact that his dad was able to talk him out of the negotiations for the Boots fight. But now it's time for him to back it up in the ring. You don't want to have all that negotiations be going viral for the wrong reasons and then slip up against someone in Derek Chavez, who at 27-1-1 is kind of he's a voluntary defense. He shouldn't on paper anyway pose any real risk to Norman Jr., should he?
No, I mean, he's top 15 in the WBO. That's how he got this. I don't know how he's top 15, how he's ranked. He's fought and beat nobody. He's also in the active, Derek Cuevas. I mean, this is the thing. I've watched some tape on him. He's pretty basic. He obviously has heavy hands for the competition he's fought. But Brian Norman Jr., when you tell me his name, I think hot and cold. And the only real hot performance was his last performance against Gio Santillan, but you're also as good as your last performance. So this is going to be an interesting fight because Brian Norman needs to make a statement, like you were alluding to. You can't talk yourself out of a Boots fight and then not show up.
No, you can't. And I mean, look, his opponent hasn't. This is the first time he's even fought a 12 rounder. Never mind the fact he's top 15 with the WBO. It just says everything, unfortunately, that's wrong with boxing when this can be a world title fight without, any real jeopardy, shall we say, on the line. So I think I know where we're both going to go with this one, but let's get your prediction locked in for Norman Jr. and Chavez.
Yeah, I mean, I got Brian Norman Jr. winning. I just don't know how because, like I've said, he's had some real cold performances. Quentin Randall, super cold. He struggled with him. He smothered all his work. Janelle Samboca Chica, he got dropped heavily in that fight. So, I mean, there is some risk associated here. But I think if Brian Jr., if we see the one that fought Gio Santillán, he should be knocking him out within the first 6 rounds. So I'm going to go with an early stoppage.
Early stoppage. Yeah, I have to admit, I'm much the same as you. I've got Norman winning. I just can't say with certainty how. He's either going to turn up, steal the night away from the girls in the main event that we're going to come on to in a minute and sort of say, Boots, Stanionis, I want you after you fight on April 13th, which is how it should be. Or he's going to stink the place out and kind of show why his dad was pricing him out of the Boots fight because he's not near that level, if that makes sense. I'm going to go with Norman Jr. on points just to be a bit different to you. I think it may be a frustrating night. I mean, Chavez is inactive, hasn't fought since 2023, but you can't exactly say Norman Jr. is the most active fighter either. So I feel like it's going to be a bit of a stinker, which at 2, 3 in the morning for us over here in the UK is going to be a tough watch, but we'll get through it. We've sat through much worse than that. It leaves us with one fight, mate, and it's the main event. It's the rematch for the WBO 147 pounds title between Michaela Mayer and Sandy Ryan. Bad blood aplenty, allegations. Sandy stole Michaela's trainer, X, Y, and Z. Culminated in the paint being thrown as Sandy was leaving the hotel in New York in September. Very emotional on the night. Personally, very surprised she was allowed to fight. Even the commission didn't say anything in the locker room. When you look at how she was, I've watched a review of the fight. She was physically shaking. If you look at the interview she does with Top Rank beforehand, but it was a very entertaining fight. Look, I had Mayer winning it 7 rounds to 3, if I'm being honest, the first time round. And I feel like we're just going to get another fantastic fight again. I mean, what do you make of, firstly, the animosity between the two girls, and secondly, the first fight?
Yeah, I was at that fight. I thought Sandy Ryan won 6-4. So There we go with the judge. This is the thing with Michaela Mayer's style is because it's easy to give her rounds off activity. Unfortunately, I thought she clearly beat Natasha Jonas, right? And it went the other way.
And I will agree. I will agree with you there. I'll agree with you there.
She comes forward and she throws a ton of punches. I just personally thought Sandy Ryan was landing the cleaner, tougher shots. I think we're going to get a similar style of fight where it's going to be back and forth. The styles are going to clash, and it's going to be like how you and me are talking about it. Well, you like that round, but I like this round. So, I mean, I that's how I think it's going to go. I think there's going to still be discussions after the fight.
Yeah, look, and you just spoke about Michaela Mayer's activity. I mean, I've seen her fight live as well when she fought at the Copper Box over here in the UK a couple of years ago. And the one thing that impressed me that night was how constant her punches were. It's almost as if as soon as her feet were set, she was letting her hands go with some sort of combination. And it was constant. It was impressive. And Lucy Wildheart is on a level down from Sandy Ryan, but even still that night, which was for an interim world title, it impressed me. But let's talk about Sandy. Look, paint, as I've said here, paint Vegas red, kind of an arc backs in a paint in September. It's all well and good being emotionally charged for a fight, but she's got to channel that in the right way, can't she? If she's too emotional, she could end up finding herself getting stopped or just taken to school for 10 rounds with Michaela Mayer's Olympian background, couldn't she?
Yeah, I mean, obviously you don't want something like that to affect you. I mean, at the end of the day, I don't know, maybe I'm reading it wrong. It's paint. Like, yeah, it's bad taste. She didn't get hit with a Molotov cocktail or something or a rock. I mean, it's paint. It throws her off. Yeah, it could have been worse. I mean, I think getting smacked in the face with an egg is worse than the paint. But yeah, your team's got to sit you down. Listen, don't let you throw off the game plan. Like, we got to fight our fight. And hopefully that's in the past. If it affected her the first fight, hopefully it's not going to affect her this fight. If it did affect her the first fight, You know, I did hear about her being emotional, so we'll see. We'll see how that goes. It was unfortunate, and hopefully nothing like that happens for this one.
Yeah, I mean, like you see, you were in the arena, so you wouldn't have seen the interview she done with Top Rank when she arrived, mate. I was watching that. I think it's about 2 o'clock in the morning here, and my first thought was, don't know if she should be fighting. Her whole body language, the way she was shaking, it was clear it had a massive effect on her. Now, look, she still gave a fantastic performance, so letting the fight go ahead was the right thing. But at the time, it didn't sit right with me. And look, they're in Vegas this time. Security will be high. They're fighting in the Mandalay Bay, aren't they? So they'll literally just be walking across the hotel to the arena. There shouldn't be any issues this time. And let's hope it's when the fight ends, we're talking about another fantastic contest for female boxing rather than something that's happened outside the ring. But that's enough talking. Let's give a prediction, mate. Is it going to be Anne Steele or Anne Venue?
Man, I'm going to be honest. I don't know if you're going to like this, but I see like a 96-94, 96-94 the other way, and a 95-95. I see a draw coming in. I really do. I see a draw. I could have seen the draw the first fight, and I think it's going to be similar. I could see it's so tough because no one's clear with these rounds. I think this is just where it can be. Yeah, I'm going with a draw. I'm calling a draw here.
Go for a draw,
So,
mate.
and still.
Yeah, mate,
Yeah,
I can see it. I can see a draw. Look, they're very evenly matched girls. I think the one thing you got to take into account is this is now Mayer's third or fourth fight up at 147. So she's spent the time filling out the weight now. She said herself that she feels like she's finally making 147 naturally rather than feeling like she's still leaving something in camp, if that makes sense. I thought Mayer won the first fight, like I said. I think she's going to win this rematch as well. I think it will be close. You're probably looking at a 6-4 fight again, just like the first one. But I just think her boxing will make the difference. The fact she's a former Olympian, the fact that she can revert to type and spend a couple of rounds on her jab if she needs to, that's something that Sandy isn't as comfortable doing. And that's where I think Michaela will win the fight. So Michaela Mayer and still the WBO champion of the world. But mate, again, as we just said with Vong and Flynn at the start, it going the opposite way to what we're saying wouldn't surprise me at all. It's a fantastic fight, isn't it?
Yeah, definitely, especially when we don't have clear winners when we're talking this through. So that's usually the makings of a good fight.
Yeah, absolutely. No, but that is all the fights we're going to talk through this week. It's again a bit of a lighter week for boxing in terms of at the top ends where it's even matchups, shall we say? Before we go, mate, thank you very much for coming on. Really enjoyed having you on. Do you want to let everyone know where they can follow you on social media if they're not already doing so?
I'm on Twitter once in a while. That's it, just for boxing updates, But I just like coming on here talking boxing with people that know boxing, because believe it or not, it's few and far between. It's a very niche sport. People that are very educated in fights and watch a lot of fights. So no, I just appreciate that. Thanks, Liam.
I appreciate your time, mate. Thank you very much. All that's left for me to say to everyone watching is thank you very much for watching. Please follow myself on X at Liam_Tully9. You'll see me back on JFT tomorrow night doing straight talk with the main man himself, Jason Murphy. And you'll see me on SW Fight Hub in about 10 minutes time this evening for No Punches Pulled. As always, like, comment, and subscribe to the channel. And I'll see you next week.
See you guys.